Hi.
Hi, I'm always muted when I talk.
Yeah, and I sometimes we do.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm sorry for the confusion. I just clicked on that first link.
No, that's okay. Sorry about that. I think I may have sent that today when I was talking to my grad, thinking in my head, I need to send a reminder and wrong reminder. So sorry about that. One of those days.
How many people are we expecting for this?
So we do different, topics and sessions. We've gotten anywhere from 10 to 20 to 50 or so. So most of them are more smaller. So if
Okay.
we get around 20, that's a good like average amount.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't set up the link. I think Christina did. So if they registered ahead of time, you would have an idea. However, I find too, people register, then they don't show up, and then others do. So you never know.
Because we saw it on the main FIU Instagram yesterday, and we kind of panicked a little bit. Well, I did. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like,
Ah.
oh my god, how many people are coming? All of FIU's coming.
No,
Because
you're
this
good.
is a new presentation for us. I don't know if Christina told you all. So I'm a little nervous because it's brand new and there's just so much material. So yeah, so I'm going to probably be, which I never do this. I'm usually like, I like to kind of like, I know the material and then I just kind of do my own thing, you know. And
Yes.
Christina's so good at like, she creates our presentations and puts a lot of information. There's a lot of information, so I'm going to be really like, you know, hyper focused. I don't want to miss anything because it's really good stuff and I want to make sure we cover it all. So.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Ivy, by the way. I work in campus life.
Sorry, I'm Elsa.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, so what we normally do for these is I'll introduce you at first. I usually give them like 3 to 5 minutes once you let them in. So don't let them in till like a minute before.
Okay.
So yeah, you should have like a waiting room, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, let them in like when we're ready to start, because then we can just like set up and get ready till then. And
Okay.
then once you let them in, like I'll just let them know we'll get started like around it starts at 3, like 3:05. And then because some of them are jumping from class to Zoom, and then I'll do the introduction. I just share with them about life skills, and then I'll introduce you. And is it okay if the session is recorded?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
It's already set up as recording because
Okay, perfect.
yeah, we wanted to record it too. It helps us like with you know, Christina, we review it. We kind of, it's a good way for us to kind of learn from it.
So that would even be more awesome if you're able to send it to me once it's recorded, because my computer's like my personal one. It's really old and doesn't work really well when it's recording. So then, yeah, then we put it on. We have a YouTube channel for all of our life skills that they can see again as well if you think it came out good, which I'm sure it will.
Ivy, you could have mentioned that at the end.
Oh, you're good. I know. I've been doing intros for a while, but I think it's easier on video than in person to like
True.
100 people.
Yeah. I totally.
It should be around 20-ish people, I
Okay,
think.
that's not bad.
I could be wrong, but
It's actually already recording because she presets it, so it's not even recording just on my laptop. It's recording on the cloud for
I
us,
see.
whatever we have set up in the SharePoint, I guess.
Okay.
So we set it up always like that. So then she can take it and I'm sure you can trim it or whatever.
Edit it. Yeah.
and
That's
edit
what I
it too.
normally do because they don't need to see all this.
Yeah, no. These are the
see it now.
bloopers.
Yeah, I
The
see
coach
it
having a
now.
meltdown before she starts the presentation. The life coach.
Aw. Right.
No, yeah, it's exciting. This is a great. I'm really excited that we added this topic
Yeah, thank
to
you.
our topics. Yeah, it's a really great. It comes up all the time. It's like
For me
like
too.
a life strategy. Yeah, 100%. So
yeah. So yeah, as I was sharing, just the timeline is I'll just wait a couple minutes, then I'll introduce myself and the series that we put on, then I'll introduce you. How do you pronounce your name so I don't mess it up?
Elsa Carrasco.
Carrasco. Okay, that's easy. Elsa. My daughter loves Frozen and Elsa, so I know that well.
Yeah, that kind of had to come back, that name. For the longest time, I've always gone by my middle name. And when I started my career in higher ed, I went for my master's in higher ed at UM, and my the program director of that program was just obsessed with the name. And she was like, I'm not calling you. My middle name is Patricia. And she's like, I'm not calling you Patricia. You're going by Elsa. And she totally renamed me. And then it was so hard because it stuck. And so I started like, why am I going to fight it? Because I always had to go through the whole, I go by my middle name and then people have to change it. And then it just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And then when I came to FIU, I'm like, whatever, I'm Elsa now.
That's nice.
But,
yeah.
It's nice. Yeah. It's my second phase of my life name.
That's funny. Yeah, right? You had two different names that you got used to.
Exactly. So we have some Zoom polls. So I'll pull those up as we go along. I think for that I have to like unshare and then open them up, right? For them to see it.
I think you should have it. I haven't done it yet, but maybe at the bottom of your screen.
Do you mind if I test it out with you for a second?
Yes, please. That's what this is for. I was going to say, load up your PowerPoint and test it out.
Yeah, because as soon as they start, I'm going to, hold on, I shared the wrong way. Hold on. As soon as they come in, I want to already have it set up. So all you can see now is the presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, oh yeah, look, I can do it from here. This is what
I was going to say, there should be something you can just pop
I just clicked on it. So I'm just going to have to put launch. I wonder if I launch, it'll still work afterwards, right?
I don't know. I think so. I don't know though. Should. But I think, do you have more than one? Does it say like number one you launch, or is it going in order? Like, can you pick which one you launch?
Yeah. So I think it should be okay. Let me do it. Let me try it.
Yep.
Do you see anything?
Who here procrastinates?
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
I see that for sure.
And then, so it says attending are now viewing questions. And then when I do end polling, and then I'm going to put share results.
Yep, I can see that.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. And it says relaunch polling. So.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Results. Awesome. I've created them, but haven't used them yet. Now, you all are going to send out a survey too. Are you going to share it at the end of your presentation, or?
Oh, good question. Let me see if. Yeah, so at the end of the presentation, there is a, let me go through it here. How do I just go straight to that? Do I have to just do this? Is there a way of, well, let me just, That's the evaluation.
Perfect.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Because what I normally do too afterwards, if you could also send me like their email addresses of like who attended, I usually send out an email to them like, thank you for attending. Please remember to take the survey, and like I give them like a week, and then I send it out again. And then if I get the recording in time, I send that to them, and also like our future events as well. So if you also have future flyers, I'd be happy to, forward that also. And
awesome. Okay.
I can, send out the survey for the ones that didn't do it right then and there.
So we'll send you the link of the survey again, just so you have it in case anybody didn't do it during the workshop, the names of the attendees and any future flyers or anything like that.
Yeah, their email addresses, like their names. If you get like the Excel sheet, that would be good.
Yes. Okay.
And the recording, if they're able to edit it. If not, I have someone that can do it too.
Yeah, I'll ask Christina. And then what I'll do in this section is I will also just cut and paste the survey link into the chat, so it's easier for them to be able to just cut and paste. Will we be using the chat function here? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, whichever way. I've had presenters use everything. Basically, they say, like, they may take a pause and say, hey, now's your chance. If you have a question, please like unmute yourself or put it in the chat. If you just want to do strictly chat, if you whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay. And you'll be here the whole time, right?
Absolutely.
If for some reason I miss, like if I'm going through and I miss the chat, do you mind letting me, like, just saying, oh, by the way, there's something? Okay, thank you. Because sometimes when I have like all of these things going on, I get a little overwhelmed. I'm like, oh,
yeah, for sure.
And I missed the little alert that the chat is on. Okay, this should be. I guess we're
Yeah,
all
and
set
you
up now.
can,
Should be good.
if you're feeling like at the end you still have a little bit more, or there's a lot of questions, you can let them know, like, hey, everyone, like, if you have to leave, like, the time's done, but if you have time, like, I could stay for a couple, extra minutes and answer some more questions if it gets to that point and you have time.
Okay. I would definitely do that. I can already tell you, like, just from previous experiences in doing our workshops, we usually never have time for a lot more afterwards because we built in the interaction throughout, and we like to build in like reflection throughout.
Gotcha.
So today, depending on, this is Janine. I'm going to let her in, right?
Yeah.
Today, depending on how many students we'll have, depends how much interaction I'll be able to engage students in because of how long the presentation is.
Yeah, sounds good. Hello there.
Hello. Hi, I'm Janine. I'm the graduate assistant who's been talking to y'all.
Hi, I'm Elsa, one of the life coaches under Christina's team. Nice to meet you.
Let me change my background. I was in class just now, so
I'm like, I want to go there. Elsa, how many coaches are there now?
Now we have 3.5, so 3 full-time coaches besides Christina. So Christina, who primarily, she's the manager, so she's not doing too much coaching, like one-on-one right now. She's, creating all these great programs and presentation stuff. And then the 3 full-time coaches, which is me, Axa, who just recently started, and Brittany. And then Giovanna works at BBC, and she's part-time with us because she does all kinds of other stuff for other departments.
Yeah, she's the one I've known for a long time. When she was a grad student, I knew her, so.
Okay. And then we have 2 student assistants who are just wonderful, and they really help us so much.
Nice.
And so we have a nice team. Last year when I started, it was just Kim and I, Kim Noy, who works now in the financial wellness office.
Yes.
And then now we started getting more. So Kevin Solar, he's a student, or is there anybody else from your team coming?
No.
Okay, so that should be a student, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. We're getting people.
I'm going to send the message to everybody in the waiting room. Just thank you for joining. And
Sounds good. It's recording already, Janine, but they're going to edit out like this part.
Okay, great. So then I will probably take off my camera because I'm eating.
Go right ahead.
That, people, when they come back, they just don't see me eating.
Yeah, when we start, I'll probably take off my camera too because these are all online. I don't want to be in everyone just sitting there.
Right.
But yeah, it should be good. I'm sure I'll learn something too. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, like I said, this is like the #1 recurring theme for all of our students.
Are you still working from home, or are you going into the office now too?
We've been only working from home, but we're going to start rotating now. So my first day is not next week, but the week after. I'm going to be coming in on Wednesdays, I think once a week or bi-weekly. It really, I don't know how they figured it out. I think because of there's a Wednesday that we have off. It doesn't end up being back to back weekly. Yeah. But so maybe 3 times between now and Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm curious how it's going to be. I know somebody from our team, Maria, just went in, I think on Monday, and she said it was super quiet.
Yeah.
Super quiet.
We have a rotating schedule now. Our day is Thursday, so I'll be going in tomorrow. But yeah.
Oh, so tomorrow will be your first day?
Second. Last week we went. We started last week. But yeah, it's quiet. It's a slow process, so that's good.
True. That would make it a lot easier to transition back. It's been such a long time.
I know, since March. It's so crazy.
Maria posted yesterday on her social media. She has one of those calendars, the type that the papers. Remember those old school desktop calendars?
Yes.
And it was on the page. It said March 13th, I think, and she took a picture of it. And then when she had to peel off, it was literally this heavy of papers, just from every single. And that's when when it hits you, wow, it's been a long time.
That's funny you say that because I have one of those too on my desk. And over the break, or not break, when we've been home, I'm man, it's just going to go to waste. And then I did go in one time over the summer, like an office moved in like July, I think. And I was like, I'm going to get that and bring it home. So I got it and I was like, yay, I can use it now. But yes, it's crazy. Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah, that was really interesting what she showed to me. I actually should have told her to keep it because I have a daughter who's an artist, and I thought my initial thought was like, what a cool like collage of having like some art piece with all of these dates all in the background.
Yeah, I like
but she probably tossed it.
I like that for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, it's insane.
So do you do a lot of does your team do a lot of presentations per semester?
So we don't normally like so much present them and more like host them. Like we find different topics that are trending or that we know students are needing, or we just make connections with staff, faculty, or professional speakers in the area, and we're the liaisons that we put them together.
Okay.
We could present, but some areas we just like to find the experts in those fields. But Janine's having a presentation coming up next week.
Oh, nice. On what topic?
It's called Color Code Your World. So pretty much it's helping students get organized, whether it be organizing their school assignments or organizing bills and all of that fun stuff, and just putting a little color code in there to make it easier.
Oh, I love that. And is that open to all students?
Yep.
And staff.
Oh, wow. How can they find it? Like on Panther Connect is the best way?
Yes, Panther Connect. It's on Instagram. It's where else? The virtual calendar, all of that.
Oh, wow. Love it. That's a good one. I'll definitely tell my students because I'm always talking about color coding on their calendars and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. If you saw, I don't think you can see, but I have like this big bowl with tons of different color mark. I color code everything all the time. Nice. on my Outlook, it's all color coded. On my paper stuff, it's all color.
Same.
That's awesome. Yeah, Janine, if you get a chance, send Elsa your flyer.
Okay, definitely. I'll email it to you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I also teach a psychology course that I could send it to my students.
Yes, that would be awesome. Thank you.
We'll send you more too, but yeah, that one for sure.
So we have 4 in the waiting room right now.
Okay. Can give them another minute and let them in, and then I'll introduce you in a little bit and let them know to just hold on for a couple minutes. So like minute 2:58. Give them some anticipation time. So you ready, Elsa? You're good to go?
Yeah, it's been helpful chatting with both of you right now.
We're here. We got your back. We're here the whole time, so.
Janine, I was just telling Ivy that because it's a new presentation that's just, it's a topic that we talk about all the time, but this particular set of slides are brand new. So and it's a lot of content, which is great because it touches on everything having to do with procrastination, but I was just feeling a little bit more anxious than normal. Okay, I've had a couple more just joined, so we have 6 in the waiting room.
Cool. And they'll probably get more
as we start, right?
Yeah, so even though you're presenting, kind of look and see, because we don't have access to it, otherwise we normally do that too. Actually, you could make us a co-host and we could help you. If you go to my name, like to the right of mute, those 3 dots, it should say like co-host, and if you make myself and Janine that, we can add them in for you too, so you don't have to worry about that.
Oh, that's great.
I didn't think of that. Now I see it. Yep. I see it now. So don't worry about it. We'll add them for you once we start.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yes, I forgot about that. But yeah, if you want to start letting them in, we can let them in, and I'll let them know.
And then we can also check, I'm not sure if Ivy had told you, but we can also check the chat for you.
Yes, we I did ask Ivy at the beginning because I said sometimes when there's so much going on, I'm in the middle of something and I start seeing the little chat thing. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, we got you.
Awesome.
Okay. So you want me to start letting them in now?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. We're just letting people in from the waiting room.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming to this procrastination workshop. Let me see. I'm going to start with like an introduction, then I'll go over some basic Zoom, you know, some kind of, we like to call them our ground rules for this presentation in terms of Zoom, and then we'll go ahead and jump into procrastination. So let me just continue letting some people in.
And we'll announce it again, but it is being recorded just so you're aware. I think it's the time students are just getting out of class, they're just getting around to logging in and different things. So we give everyone a couple minutes.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started shortly. Thank you for coming.
Sounds like a doorbell.
Yeah, I love it. I do love like that about Zoom.
Awesome. We have a good amount of students so far.
I'm excited. Ivy, whenever you're ready, I can, you know, whenever, if you want to let more students in, or, I mean, should we?
Yeah, so we can get started actually, because I know your presentation has a lot of information, so we have enough time for everybody. We'll just continue to let students in, but welcome everyone for attending. My name is Ivy Siegel-Mack in Campus Life, and I'm going to point out Janine Ortiz, that's also there, our grad student, so you may be seeing her programs from time to time. And just some housekeeping information. The session is being recorded, so just so you know that. At the end, we will post a survey. Hopefully you can fill that out, and we will send that out also later on, so you'll have that with some other future life skills and coaching programs coming up. This session is called Overcoming Procrastination, which will be a wonderful topic for everyone. Our speaker is Elsa Carrasco, and this presented by the College of Life Coaching Program. You can also reach out to her in other ways for some coaching, which is really helpful. So whenever you're ready, Elsa, go ahead.
Thank you, Ivy, and thank you so much for inviting us to collaborate with you by presenting this presentation on procrastination. So welcome, everybody. As Ivy said, we'll continue letting some of the students who are continuing to come in, but in terms of the time frame, because we do have a lot of content with this presentation. As you can imagine, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to procrastination. We will go ahead and get started. But to begin with, we're going to do an introduction, you know, tell you a little bit about me, about our team, tell you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about more specifically, and then also go into a little bit of the Zoom ground rules for this presentation. So to begin with, college life coaching. What is college life coaching? Well, I really believe we're like this awesome resource on campus You can find us both at the MMC campus, and we're also at the BBC campus. Right now, we're doing all of our coaching via Zoom. But hopefully, whenever we're back on campus, you can visit us at the MMC campus. We're in the 3rd floor of the SASC building within the Career and Talent Development Office. We have a great group of coaches, and what we strive for is to provide a safe space, what we like to call a free judgment zone, where you get to come in, you get to talk about anything that's going on in your academic and student life, identify some goals, come up with some action steps, brainstorm study strategies and time management, scheduling stuff for your classes, talking about procrastination, motivation, health and wellness, self-care, all of that good stuff, in a safe setting where you have a partner, a coach, to help you kind of navigate this college experience. Usually, we meet with our students bi-weekly, and if you're interested, towards the end, I'll give you more information in terms of how to reach us and stuff. So in this presentation, we're going to be talking about procrastination. What does procrastination look like for you? Because it's very individual for everybody. Everybody's procrastination looks a little differently. What are your underlying reasons to procrastinate? And what will motivate you to stop procrastinating? And what plan can help you overcome that procrastination? Okay, so a lot of good stuff. And then going over a little bit of the Zoom ground rules. Like Ivy mentioned, this Zoom session will be recorded for training purposes. Please go ahead and turn on your cameras if you can right now, but you can keep yourselves on mute. We kind of like to make our presentations interactive. So if you want to share something or you have a question, you can put it in the chat, you can raise your hand, and then we would definitely call on you. However, if there's a lot of background noise, definitely, keep yourself muted. It's definitely the best way to make sure that we can continue going through the content. So we're going to talk about some strategies to help us overcome procrastination. But the most important part of this whole process is to be able to reflect and identify what will work best for you. Because like I said, it's not a one shoe fits all type of situation, right? If you can reflect throughout this process, what does it look like for me? How can I make it work for me? Then it's much easier for you to be able to overcome it. So if you don't have something right now to write with, whether a piece of paper or a pen, go ahead and grab something, whether it's the Notes app on your phone or a Word document or Google document on your laptop. That would be great, because we're definitely going to have some time. So I'm going to stop for a minute and have you all kind of reflect and write some of the answers down. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and dive right in. So we're going to start with a Zoom poll question. Who here procrastinates? So, let me just go ahead and pull up this. Sorry, I'm going to just relaunch it. Okay, awesome. Let me make sure that. Are you all able to see my? Okay, yeah, awesome. So go ahead and take a minute and answer the poll. So who here procrastinates? We know that everybody procrastinates, but not everybody is a procrastinator. So one of the things we're going to teach you is that procrastination is habitual. It is not situational. So it is a habit that we hope to kind of curb, reduce, improve on. But it's not just situational. And I think a lot of times that's one of the misconceptions, that we think it's just, I only procrastinate when it comes to school, or I only procrastinate when it comes to this. And as you'll hear later on, sometimes we make it situational to kind of justify it, right? To basically be able to say, oh yeah, it's because of that professor that I'm a procrastinator. When in fact, it might be a habit that is creeping up in other places. So let me give you just one more second and see if everybody's voted. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And let me go ahead and share the results. So, no surprise there, right? 74% of you procrastinate all the time. And 26%, sometimes it happens. Exactly. Yep. Sometimes there's probably certain things that trigger you to procrastinate more. And as you can see, 0, never procrastinated ever, right? This is something that we all pretty much have in common as human beings, right? We all tend to procrastinate at some point or another. And so we know that procrastination is the act of putting something off, right? It's either when we delay doing something that we have to do, we avoid doing it for whatever reason. And although certain amount of pressure and anxiety can be useful for productivity, often procrastinating can actually lead to feelings of guilt, inadequacy, depression, anxiety, self-doubt, just feeling exhausted, right? When you're procrastinating, something that we've noticed a lot in our coaching one-on-ones right now is it's midterm season, right? We're all starting to feel the pressure of like, it's been 5-6 weeks into classes. So you're starting to feel tired, which could also be a result of the procrastinating. Some other things that come up is, missing deadlines because of procrastination, or just the quality of the work is not just there. Because even if you started a little earlier, it might be a lot better than just waiting to the last minute. So procrastination can easily interfere with academic and personal success. And we know that it's closely related to time management and motivation. If you're here today, it's because you may have experienced one of these symptoms of procrastination, and you simply want to work on these areas, right? You want to work on it. You know it's important. It's something that's always like kind of tugging at you, like, oh, I know I procrastinate. I need to do something about it. So for self-improvement, overcoming procrastination is the first step. And then really starting with saying to yourself, what does my procrastination look like? And this is a way that a lot of us don't ever look at it. We just, again, keep going back. We procrastinate, but we don't really stop, reflect, and ask ourselves, what does my procrastination look like? How does it come out for me? How does it show up? A lot of times procrastination means a couple of things, that you're simply putting off a task into a later time, right? Which I mentioned. You're waiting on something else. Like, I can't start studying until I go to tutoring. I can't start studying until I clean my closet. I can't start studying until I clean my kitchen. I do that all the time. My procrastination shows up and I go right to my kitchen and start cleaning the kitchen. And I'm always justifying that I have to clean the kitchen when I'm supposed to be doing something else. So choosing another task for that immediate pleasure, or just because you tell yourself that this is more important, is one of the ways that, procrastination comes through. Thinking over and over about what you're going to do, but not actually doing it. Again, flipping through the chapter to see what you have to read and counting how many pages, but never stopping to actually read it. I'm sure many of you sit in the library, you're ready to get started, you have everything set up, and all of a sudden you're like looking through your phone and you're scrolling through like Instagram when you're supposed to be studying. So that's one of the ways it comes through. Getting distracted with TV, Netflix, like I said, Instagram, TikTok, texting, listening to music, other ways that we often tend to procrastinate. Developing a compulsive behavior, whether it's overeating, exercising, cleaning, which is, I'm guilty of, that gives you a reason not to do the task at hand, is often something that comes through. And being too passive, just basically sometimes telling yourself, I'm just not going to do it, waiting for things to happen naturally when you know that you should be doing something else. So in this chart, as you can see, it basically shows, like I described to you some of the ways, things I should do, things I would like to do, and things that I do when I'm procrastinating. So we all have this in our minds, right? The things we know we should be doing, the things we know we would like to be doing, and then there's that whole category of things that I do when I procrastinate. So the first step, like I said, is understanding what is your procrastination. The most important part of this workshop is doing the work of the reflection piece. This is what really makes our office unique in terms of coaching. There's a lot of reflection so that you can actually step back, think about your personal circumstances. How do you procrastinate? What does it look like for you? When do you tend to procrastinate? And actually apply it to your own personal situations. So this is the time, if you can, please go ahead and take out a piece of paper, something to write with, or go ahead on your phones and on your notes app. And we're going to actually think about and reflect on these 3 questions. So if you can, maybe list like 3 columns, and one of them can be, what kinds of tasks do you procrastinate on most? What days and times do you tend to procrastinate most? And what activities do you usually do to avoid the task? Would anybody like to share and kind of walk through these steps with us?
I can share, sure.
Okay. Hi, Laura. Welcome.
Hi.
Okay, so taking a second just to really digest these questions. What kind of tasks do you procrastinate on most? What days and times do you tend to procrastinate most? And what activities you usually do to avoid two tasks? Let's go through the first one. What kind of tasks do you think you procrastinate on most?
Okay, so probably more longer tasks, or specifically like English would be a category of tasks that I would procrastinate on. Because I like to do math, so I do those right away. And
Okay.
then what days and times? Honestly, most days and most times, that's what procrastinating is, right? Like I do it at the end of the day, or like right before it's due usually.
Okay.
And then what activities do you usually do to avoid the task? Going on my phone, meditating, like just stuff that's not work. Anything to keep me busy, right? Like cleaning, organizing something else.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome, Laura. Thank you. How many of you can relate to some of these things that Laura mentioned? Go ahead and if you want to give me a thumbs up, or you can put it in the chat if you can relate to some of these things that Laura mentioned. Yeah, Gilda, right? You can totally relate to it. Thank you, Gilda. So a couple things I want to touch on, because we're going to touch a lot deeper into it, but I just want to highlight. So there are different reasons, different type of tasks that you tend to procrastinate more, common ones. And Laura mentioned a couple of them. You know, sometimes those longer projects, those things that are either more abstract, just longer, bigger projects, we tend to procrastinate on. So that's a common thing when you're doing in your class. Maybe you have a lot of discussion questions that you have to answer and some quick quizzes, but then you have this 10-page paper. Most likely you're procrastinating on the 10-page paper for a lot of you. There's just something about having something so big, it becomes overwhelming and you tend to kind of put it aside. And something else that really stuck out when what Laura said is that, so it's not just the larger stuff, but she said she likes math. So she tends to kind of go into the math first. And that's another common area where we kind of tend to pick and choose what we really like doing and kind of leave some stuff behind. So I'm sure some of you already have 3 or 4 or 5 classes on your schedule and already have highlighted which ones you really love and which ones maybe not so much. And those might be the ones that you're starting to procrastinate on. Did everybody have a chance to do this exercise? Does anybody need a little longer time to be able to do the steps? Does anybody else want to share what they wrote down? If you want to go ahead and raise your hand or just put in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to share.
I can share.
Thank you. Miriam?
Yeah, Miriam, yeah.
Oh, Miriam. Hi, Miriam. Thank you for volunteering. So what about you? Any insight, anything new that you learned from these 3 questions?
So like similar to Laura, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I tend to procrastinate when it comes to studying big projects and essays, because yeah, it's just a big task that I want to push off, and I do it at days and times when I have a lot of stress and a lot of things to do together. So I just leave the big things for later, and I do activities I usually do to avoid the task is I tell myself I have to clear my schedule first and do all the smaller assignments for the whole week and then start studying. And I also, I go to take a break to eat, or I go out for a walk, or I grab my phone to watch something. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Miriam. So one of the things that definitely stands out is that self-talk, that little inner dialogue that goes on in her head, right? When you're trying to avoid it. So it's something probably like telling you, oh, you got to do this instead or do that. And we all have this inner dialogue that starts showing up magically when we have to do something that kind of contributes to the procrastination. I think I have a couple comments in the chat. Sorry, I hadn't seen some of these things. So thank you, Catherine. Catherine mentions that, you know, she procrastinates a lot on like geology, something she needs to read or take notes because she really hates reading the textbook. Yeah, sometimes even in class materials, exactly. There's certain things that you might like the videos more, the recordings, the PowerPoints, and then the textbook is like, okay, that's not fun. And that's what you tend to push away. And then as Catherine said, mostly in the afternoon or evening because the energy low. And that's another excellent point. Sometimes we tend to procrastinate when our energy tends to drop. For me, like my magic procrastination hours are like between 3 and 5, which I'm happy that I'm here in this workshop now because I have a good excuse to procrastinate. But these are my magic hours where my energy starts dropping. So I tend to feel a little bit more, feeling like I want to push things back a little bit. And sometimes they're just specific to days, like Shirley said, Mondays, Fridays, there's certain days of the week that just sort of tend to be more inviting for the procrastination to start creeping in. So hopefully through this reflection, this is starting to create the awareness and giving you some clarity to start really identifying what is your own procrastination look like. So once we see what we're doing, how we're procrastinating and identifying these red flags that we just talked about, we can start to try to understand why we're actually doing that. So some of the common underlying reasons of procrastinating, which is some of the things that we were just talking about, is feeling overwhelmed or intimidated by a task, right? Kind of to Laura's example with some of the English stuff. Sometimes a task is so overwhelming, maybe like a huge presentation in public speaking class, or I was speaking to a student who's a theater student. They had to do this project where they have to build this whole stage scene. That can be super overwhelming. Maybe she hasn't done that before. So something that can be really overwhelming or intimidating. Another common reason might be, being unsure where to begin. Can anybody identify with that? If you want to raise your hands, have you ever felt like, okay, you heard all the instructions, the professor talked about it, you see it on your syllabus, and you're still pretty unsure on how to get started? Yeah, thank you, Laura. Yes, that's a very common thing. Sometimes not really being clear on how to get started with the task. Another common reason is being afraid of a failed or successful outcome. This is a common one for any of you out there who are perfectionists. Sometimes you're just so used to doing things really in a perfect way that it gets hard to actually get started because you're so afraid of like messing up or it not coming out exactly right. Or the opposite might happen. You might have had a similar previous experience in a math class, for example, where you didn't do so well. And that's kind of causing you to feel afraid now of even getting started and getting down and doing the work. Being worried that you may not have enough time. Sometimes looking at your calendar and all of a sudden it's just overwhelming that instead of starting, that kind of paralyzes you a little bit and you fall into procrastination. And being distracted by other tasks or fun activities. And that happens to all of us. Definitely probably one of the most common ones, right? We're constantly distracted by our phones. We're getting notifications, text messages, different stuff on social media. So if you're distracted by other things that are a lot more fun than doing like physics, if that happens to not be so fun for you, then yeah, we're probably going to go ahead and pick the fun activities over the other stuff. And then the last one that I wanted to highlight, which is actually, I'll be honest, something I used to do when I was in college, it's just being excited by that thrill of that last minute pressure. Sometimes I would tell myself that inner dialogue, I do my best work when I wait to the last minute. How many of you can identify with that? Has anybody ever told themselves that you actually do the best work when you just wait to the last minute? So that is something that, yes, some of you have said, yes, that's something that happens, right? We tell ourselves that. So it might have to do with our emotions, where we're at mentally, possibly what we're feeling, whether we're feeling insecure, nervous, depressed, anxious, or frustrated. These are all different underlying reasons why we tend to procrastinate. So what can help us understand those underlying reasons is to identify what we are telling ourselves. So once we can, we're kind of, dissecting this. What does my procrastination look like? What are those underlying reasons? Then we can actually now do something about it, right? So we can identify what we're telling ourselves to rationalize the procrastination in the first place. We want to start asking ourselves, what is the self-talk that is actually happening when I'm procrastinating? What am I telling myself? Would anybody like to share and participate and just discuss some of the things that you're telling yourself when you are procrastinating, some of that inner dialogue? Any volunteers? If you want to just join in, just go ahead and unmute yourself. So just an example of that inner dialogue that's going on when you're procrastinating. What are you telling yourself? You know, my example was, ooh, my refrigerator's kind of dirty. I need to really clean this up before I actually start doing something.
Hi.
Hi.
When I like to rationalize, I always say like, I've already done this, this, and this. You know, like I deserve a break. You know, I'm like I deserve to be here. Like yeah, exactly. Like 5 more minutes. I'm just gonna hear, and then I start doing something else.
Okay, I love that. So it's just that feeling of I've already done enough. I've done so much. I can put this off a little bit, right?
It's terrible.
But it's probably a really common right? And we have a lot of great ones in the chat. Thank you. So Laura wrote, I have so much time. I'll do it later. Yeah, very common one. Shirley, 5 more minutes. And it becomes, right? How many of you are like on Netflix watching a couple shows and you're like, just 5 more minutes at the beginning of the next episode. I just want to watch 5 minutes. All of a sudden you're like 3 episodes down, right? There's still plenty of time left. That's a really common one. Just telling yourself, no, I have plenty of other things to do. I'll do it later. Well, as you can all see through the chat, there's a lot of inner dialogue happening, right? A lot of things, a lot of similar things, right? Going back to some examples like we had mentioned, you know, I work better under pressure. I don't know how to do this right. I can't do it. I really don't want to do this. Sometimes it's just really, you start telling yourself, I just really don't want to do this. Another one might be, it really won't make a difference if I put this off. Like, why bother, right? I'll just wait till the last minute. Or I don't like this class. I don't like this professor. I know I can pull this off at the last minute. I'll save myself time and effort if I wait to do this all at once. And, you know, this moment, this opportunity will never come again. You know, somebody's presenting you with something else to do and you're like, oh, I got to take this because this is so important for me to do right now. I've worked so hard, I just don't have any energy left. That's another common one. And nobody really cares whether I do this or not. So lots and lots of common things. Can you all identify with some of these other ones I've listed? Somebody just unmute themselves, yeah? Okay, so, I'm sorry, was somebody gonna say something?
Oh, no, I just wanted to mention that I agreed with most of them, or identified.
Yeah. So again, next step is now we're going to start identifying really that inner self-talk. So I invite you all, if you have that piece of paper and you identify with some of these, just write them down, make a little note for yourself, like, or even something to remember later on when you can go back and be like, what does my inner dialogue look like? And write that down for yourself so you can go back and reflect on that. So why does it matter to think about our self-talk? Does anybody have an idea? I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but does anybody want to expand on that?
May you
Gilda?
repeat the question?
I'm sorry, Gilda, were you raising your hand? Yes. Why does it matter to think about our self-talk, to identify it?
Because if we identify it, we can like find a way to stop it or like to stop ourselves, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I like to use this phrase, you know, name it to claim it, right? If you name it, then you can claim it. You can actually do something about it. So now we're starting to, the more we're naming these things, it's not like procrastination, this big taboo nobody wants to talk about, but we all do. But we're actually talking about it. We're breaking it apart. We're taking away some of the weight and, you know, the charge that it has. And now we can actually do something about it, because there are mental blocks that can keep you from doing what you want to do if you're not going to start thinking about this. So I just want to mention here, there's this TED Talk that I recommend all of you, if you're interested, to go check out, by Amanda Crowell. That's Crowell. I can put it in the chat later if you're interested. And she's a cognitive psychologist, where she talks about the most common mental blocks that stop us from achieving our goals. It's pretty much saying to ourselves, I just don't think I can do this. People like me aren't good at this. I feel like I have to do this thing, but I don't really want to. So these are even really common ones that happen a lot. And these mental blocks can actually get in the way of accomplishing our goals and doing exactly what we want to do. But the good news is that there is a way to kind of outwit these thoughts and talk yourself out of it. So again, name it to claim it. So now we're going to actually work on how can we do that. So going back to your reflection, your personal reflection, the piece of paper that you had, we're going to actually start thinking about this more. Go ahead and write down, if you haven't started doing so already, what are you telling yourself when you're procrastinating, and what are those underlying reasons that cause you to procrastinate? So it's kind of like summarizing a little bit about what we went through. what do you tell yourself when you're procrastinating, and what are some of the underlying reasons? Is there somebody else that would like to share? Kind of walk us through these two questions. If you want, you can just raise your hand. Hilda, I'm not sure. Is your hand still raised? I'm not sure if you meant to raise it or if you. Okay, I think I have somebody here. 1 second. Oh, sorry. Okay, it's stuck. Thank you, Hilda. Anybody else? Anybody would like to share and walk us through these two questions? What do you tell yourself when you're procrastinating? What are some underlying reasons? You can just unmute yourself, whoever wants to share.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, when I am like procrastinating, I always say that, well, I have a lot of time to do this, about like 2 weeks. So yeah, just chilling and going out and doing something that have fun. Because yeah, I think it's really extra. Like my assignment is too extra.
So you have a really long self dialogue, right? Of what you tell yourself.
Yes.
And Catherine, what do you think are some of the underlying reasons that cause you to procrastinate, thinking back about everything we've discussed?
I didn't think it well. Yeah, I will keep it later.
You will do it later. Like that whole idea of you can do it later?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine, for sharing. Does anybody else want to share before we move forward? I think I have one more here. Shirley, too much to read. That's one of that's the self-dialogue. Okay. And what are some of the underlying reasons, Shirley, for telling yourself there's too much to read?
Because I'm lazy to really sit there and just read the whole thing when it's long.
So maybe just having a little bit of like lack of motivation and lack of energy to actually just sit there and read something that's super long. Does that resonate with you? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and Laura agrees with you too. So that is another common one. Okay, so going into the next step now, let's talk about some of the strategies. So now we've identified it, we're aware of it. What can we do to overcome some of this procrastination, right? And we have some strategies here that have been identified by the University of Texas, actually, as a counseling and mental health center that has done a lot of research on procrastination. And then have identified that there are what we call behavioral strategies, cognitive strategies, and emotional strategies. So strategies related to our behavior, strategies related to our mindset or cognitive, right? And strategies related to the feelings that we feel, right? When we're procrastinating or not doing something. So these strategies can be utilized in order to work on improving your procrastination. Pretty much in essence, things that we do, think, and feel that can help us work towards our goal. So if you look at the chart, we've split them up into the three different categories. Again, the behavioral is when you're doing something. So think about behavior. This is the things that we do. These are strategies that we can do to help us combat the procrastination. And then the other category is the thinking. These are our cognitive strategies, right? These are ways that we can start turning our thinking, reframing, noticing that inner self-talk and flipping it to something that's really going to serve you better. And then feeling, and this is more of the emotional, really connecting with those feelings that are going on when you're going to procrastinate, or feelings that you can connect you to keep yourself from procrastinating. So going through some of these strategies, let's talk about this a little deeper. So a common one with doing is giving yourself a reward or like a penalty, a consequence of not getting the work done, right? The reward might be, let's say your phone is buzzing all day long, your friends want to hang out, and you might just say, no, I'm not going to go out with them until I get this paper done or until I read that chapter. So you have that reward in your mind and you make sure that you're connected to it. Some ways that you can remind yourself of that reward might be, having your friends text you at a certain time to check in on you. Hey, how's it going? Are you almost done? You can ask them, can you check on me to make sure that I'm keeping up with what I'm supposed to be doing? Maybe put in a little sticky note on your laptop if you're doing a paper, just reminding you, I have to finish this up so that I can go hang out with my friends. So really making a deal with yourself on what the reward is going to be and what is it going to take for you to earn that reward? How much time of work will you be doing? How many pages of that paper will you do? How many math problems are you going to do before you give yourself a reward? Like I said, telling someone else if possible will help hold you accountable to those rewards. And then also on the other side, deciding on what is the penalty if you don't do it. So pretty much, you know, start telling yourself, I can't do this. I won't be able to go to the gym if I don't get this done. And hopefully that can help you start connecting with breaking those procrastination habits. Another good one is to make a detailed list of manageable steps. So write it down. If you're going to start like a large paper and you have like Tuesday blocked off as to work on this paper, maybe making a quick little to-do list on what will you do that day. I like to tell students a lot of times when they're starting papers and they're having a hard time because they're procrastinating on it, just start with the basics. Maybe on day one, just on that Tuesday, all you need to do is create the Google document or the Word document. Literally just name the file, create the cover page, and that's it. Some of you might be like, that's it? You didn't do anything. Well, it's a start. Now you can't tell yourself, I haven't started, because you technically have, right? And that might start breaking some of those barriers with your mindset. And then the next day, you might go in and say, okay, on Wednesday, I'm just going to write my intro paragraph. That's it, just my intro paragraph. And the next day, you might actually start making a list of your references and go through the references. So you're actually breaking it up in small, manageable parts. And that sometimes tends to help. Also, while you're doing that, you start estimating how long should each portion take so that you could, you know, allocate adequate time for that. So doing bits and pieces is better than just trying to do the whole thing at once, right? And that goes into the next strategy. Also, changing your location. And this is a common one that I find a lot of times students are struggling with right now that we're in this virtual setting, right? How many of you are struggling a little bit more with procrastination now that you're doing your classes all virtually or remotely versus maybe going to campus? Anybody noticing that? A few of you? Yeah, Dominique, Laura, Gilda, definitely, yes. Kevin, for sure. Many of you, right? We do it too. I mean, at least I do in terms of work. And, you know, there's such a different mindset when you're walking into an office and you're at your desk and you have people walking around helping to hold you accountable. So sometimes it means being proactive and really being intentional on how I plan my day. And but what I mean by that is like, where am I going to sit? How am I going to place my laptop? If I'm like working, you know, I have a Zoom background, so I guess, you know, my students won't know where I'm working from. But if I'm just like laying in bed and, you know, I'm like dressed down and I'm just relaxing, I'm not going to be as motivated as I could be if I'm like sitting at a desk and maybe having the appropriate lighting on and maybe dressing a little bit more like if I'm showing up for work. And just all of these little things, changing your location, changing your environment could really help you with procrastination. So if you tend to procrastinate at night and you're waiting to do your final projects at night when you know it's dark out and you're doing it in your room on your bed, that might not be the best idea, right? Find an enforcer, find somebody else to help hold you accountable, somebody who's going to be able to basically you know, check in on you, call you out on something if you're not following through. Telling somebody else to plan. This could be a friend, a classmate, somebody who you study with. If you're at home, maybe telling one of your parents or a sibling or anybody else in your family, you know, I'm really trying to tackle procrastination. Can you kind of check in on me that I'm doing this? And then ride the wave. When you do get going, keep going no matter what, even if it involves switching tasks. So if you're noticing that you're getting all of a sudden this burst of motivation and energy, just, you know, go with it and say, wow, what's happening here? Maybe you're done with your math practice problems, but then you can be like, okay, I'm going to start that paper now that I'm like feeling all of a sudden energized. And then finally, take care of yourself, making sure that you are getting enough sleep, that you're taking time to exercise, to eat well, self-care. We're most likely to avoid a task, to procrastinate when we're tired or when we're hungry, right? When you're feeling that whole hangry, is that how they call it? When you're kind of angry and hungry at the same time, you're really not going to want to go and start working on something that you've been dreading to start working on. So if you kind of know that you already blocked out like tomorrow as being a really big study day, really be conscious of what time you're going to bed tonight, what time you're going to wake up, what you're eating, How are you taking care of yourself? Because you know you have a lot to do the next day. Okay, the next group of strategies, like we talked about, are the cognitive ones. These are the thinking strategies. A lot of that inner self, that inner dialogue comes into play here. So identify what is realistic. So really getting real with the situation. Don't set goals that are impossible to achieve. Understanding how much time a task takes and schedule enough time to do it. If you haven't taken the time to read the instructions on the syllabus on a certain project, and you're just blocking out, let's say the project is due 11:59 Saturday night, and you're going to start working on it at 8 p.m. at night, you might get a really awkward surprise when you read the syllabus and you realize that you were supposed to interview somebody for that project or something like that. How many of you have experienced that when you actually get started and you waited to the last minute and you didn't realize there was something else to the project? Anybody here done that? I knew it. That's a common one that we get all the time. Yes. Thanks, Miguel. Gilda. Yeah, that happens a lot, because a lot of times when we're starting to look at the syllabus or even on Canvas, sometimes you kind of skim through the directions. You don't take the time. You don't read the instructions clearly. There's some questions you have to answer, and you don't allow yourself enough time. So at the last minute, you miss something, and then that kind of makes it upsetting, right? Because you could have earned those extra points if you took the time. So setting goals that are impossible to achieve is just going to be counter-effective. So making sure that you ask yourself, how much time does this project truly need? And how much time can I really allow myself to do it? When am I going to do it? So you're being realistic with trying to meet that goal. Encouraging yourself, reframing that negative inner self-talk to positive talk, talking to yourself. So as soon as you notice that thought, like, I'm lazy, why even bother? This is too hard. Stop for a minute, notice it, acknowledge it, and then switch it. Try to reframe it. Maybe going from that's really hard to maybe like, okay, this is going to be challenging, but I have to do this. Would anybody like to share? Is there any common inner dialogue that's going on that you want to share, and let's work on how we can reframe it? Do you have any volunteers? You want to just unmute yourself and jump right in? No? I'm searching to see.
I'll share.
Thank you, Katya.
I'm a perfectionist, and I worry about not being prepared enough. I give myself plenty of time, but I'm always thinking, oh, I don't have enough information, or I'm not prepared enough, or I haven't looked for enough sources. So mine is a little bit different than everybody else, where I think maybe I feel that I put a lot of weight on everything I do. So I want to make sure I'm as prepared as I possibly can be to take on any task.
Okay. So Katya, imagine if that's my situation and you're my good friend, and I'm saying to you, Katya, one of the issues that I have is that, I want to make sure that it's perfect, that I have enough sources, that I've done the research. I've gone to the library quite a few times, but I'm still not quite there. And I'm having a hard time starting because it just doesn't look right. And it's really starting to overwhelm me because I'm I'm procrastinating. What would you say to me?
I would say you're only going to know until you start doing it and you start separating your sources and you start realizing if there are gaps or not, and that's exactly what I do with myself. So I go through this whole process every time.
So what happens? What ends up, where's the roadblock for you? Where do you notice that you're catching yourself stopping?
It's not necessarily a roadblock. It's just that I hate having to go through the whole process, and since, again, I need time to do things, I never leave things till the last minute. But when I have to work with a group, a lot of the people in the group, if not, if there are 5 people, I'm the only one who's not doing it that way. They want to do it on the last day. Mm-hmm. So then we have a clash because I really tell them, listen, I text them, and I'm a little pedantic, and I say, we really need to start looking at this before, we come to a hole or a problem that we can't overcome. So that's not only for me. I mean, for me, I give myself a deadline that I actually usually force myself on that day to start doing it. So It's just thinking of a way of not reaching that despair situation.
Mm-hmm.
How
So,
to make myself calmer, because I always do this. And at the end, I tell myself, you see, you always manage to do it. But every time I start a new project, it's all over again. It's like the same thing. Back to slot one.
So Katya, you know, this kind of ties into what we were talking about, looking for those underlying reasons, right? And one of the things you mentioned is maybe that frustration with being part of a group and feeling like here you are doing everything on time and everybody else is falling behind. What within that situation is within your control?
Well, a lot of times in the group, there really isn't much, except that I have to do all of my part. I do it to the best of my ability. I let them know. I try to upload to whatever section, common section, like a Google Doc or whatever it is we're working with. And you still get to the last minute. And for example, in a last class I did this past summer, we were doing scientific writing. We were doing a huge paper, which was a proposal. I had to do my part and had to frame the paper and had to do the abstract, because everybody left everything to the last minute. And they had to do their part and I had already done mine. So basically it's like, oh, you're all ready. Could you take on a little more?
Right, right. So going back to like the strategies, when you're thinking about, okay, you are doing, it sounds like you are taking the steps, you're breaking it up into pieces, you are taking some of those steps. And now with the cognitive part, like when I asked you the question, what is within your control, is really kind of saying to yourself, okay, what is within my control? Like you said, doing all of your part. And then the second part would also be, how do you choose to react to the team members? If that's going to contribute to you feeling, you know, negative, going back to the feeling strategy, or if you can kind of turn that around and say, you know, I can only worry about the things that are within my control. If it gets to a point where, you know, this is happening all the time, maybe, you know, that is when you look for other strategies. Also maybe speak to the professor about reassigning you to a group, other manageable things that are within your control of doing. But it ends up becoming a very self-defeating a very self-defeating behavior if we are constantly going back and forth with the thinking. Thank you so much, Katya, for sharing. And that's a great point, because I'm sure that's a common one for a lot of you, in terms of trying your best to not procrastinate, and then you're in a group setting and everybody else is falling behind, and then you catch yourself falling in that. So always going back to asking yourself, what is within my control in this situation? Because you really cannot control how the other people do it, how they're procrastinating or not, but really focusing on you and then focusing on the thinking. What am I telling myself? Maybe instead of like, this is never going to be good enough, why even bother? Again, reframing that, acknowledging that statement, and then reframe it into something that serves you better. And then going into the final strategy, which is feel. Again, this is the emotional.
And
I'm sorry?
if anybody has like tips for handling a group, I would really love if they could share it, because I've tried a bunch of other things, you know, and I would like to hear from other people if they have better strategies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katya. Thank you so much. Yeah, if anybody has anything else that they would like to add in the chat, that would be great. I always think what I love about these group settings is being able to learn from each other. So if anybody does have a strategy, something that's worked for you, feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat. Thank you for bringing that up, Katya. And then going into the emotional, the feeling strategies, focusing on the positive, knowing that change takes time and that you won't be successful all the time. So giving yourself a break, celebrating your success, even if it's small chunks of things, even if like, okay, your paper's still not perfect and you maybe, you know, you still kind of waited a little bit later and you didn't get one part of it done, but you got everything else done, acknowledging that and saying, wow, I made an improvement today from what I did a month ago, and actually celebrating that. Also facing your fears. Rehearse doing that thing that you're most afraid of little by little so you become less afraid. So really kind of like feeling it all, whether it's the good and the bad, just really feeling it all, because sometimes in the discomfort is when you become more comfortable. So as uncomfortable as it is to tackle these big papers and these projects that you really don't want to do on, if you can just kind of start facing them by just doing it, right? It's like that slogan, just do it. If you can just kind of say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna just tackle it. I'm gonna start with page 1 and then just go for it. Feel proud of yourself at the end because you're facing it. You're facing the one thing that you really didn't want to do, and that will help you start lose that fear. And then finally, make time for fun. So a lot of times we procrastinate because we want to just have all fun. But a lot of it is because we're also not scheduling that fun. So actually at the beginning of the week, if you have a really busy week, call a friend and say, you know, I'm right off the bat letting you know that I'm having a busy week, but let's make plans for Friday night right now. Put it in your calendars. You're all set to go. So you've actually scheduled it in. And that way, that's something that will keep you like excited for the week, knowing that you want to get to Friday night to hang out with your friends. Because doing what you really love is really important so that you're not burning out. We want to make sure that all of our students are like whole, you know, well, you know, taking care of students in the sense of taking care of yourself, your self-care, you know, enjoying your college experience too, because otherwise you will feel a little bit of burnout. And then finally, we want to go into motivation a little bit, which is, it's great to have these new strategies that you want to use, but the next thing and the final step is really to start thinking about with what can you use as motivation to kind of stick with it. So we have like long-term motivators, which is getting that degree. If you're here for a certain reason, because you need this degree to go to graduate school, you need the biology degree to go into medical school, whatever the long-term goal, that's a great motivator. I'm a big visual person, so I like to tell students, you know, do like a vision board, take pictures of whatever it is that you want, put them up somewhere, use it as your screensaver on your computer or on your phone. Really keep that picture alive of why it is that you came to FIU, what it is that you're trying to pursue here. And also think about those short-term motivators. So why do you want to study today? Because it's going to feel so much better to have your weekend free to be able to hang out with your friends. It's a very different experience to go out and do something fun when you're not constantly worried about that paper that you've been neglecting. It's just that sense of relief. It's like you literally feel like 10 pounds lighter just from walking out and having fun without having that nagging feeling of like, I have to do this, right? So these are all different ways that you can use to kind of help motivate yourself when you're not quite there. So let me just pull up. I have another Zoom poll here. Give me a second. So who here has ever felt unmotivated? So we'll go ahead and just give it a couple seconds. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results, which some of you can imagine. So 80% of you sometimes or certain times where it is tough to push myself, and 20% of you said all the time, and 0 said never. So why do you think this is important? Why do you think it's important for us to highlight this? Because some of you might be like, okay, that's obvious. Why aren't you showing us this? Why is it important for us to kind of talk about this, that 80% of you do feel unmotivated at some point? You can go ahead and unmute yourself, anybody who would like to just share.
I think it's important to see that you're like not alone, you know, because like I'm not gonna like I know people procrastinate, but like no, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like this is kind of like a AA meeting, you know, kind of like it's okay, guys. Like we're gonna get through it. But it's nice to see that we're not alone.
I love that comparison. Yes, you're right. Definitely. I think just sometimes just normalizing it a little bit, right? Just validating that it's something that you're not just walking around with like this thought, like, oh, it's just me. Am I the only one that's unmotivated? Am I the only one that like doesn't want to go to class today? No, we all go through this. And like I said, you know, my title is a life coach, and I go through procrastination periods. There's certain things that keep me from doing certain things that I should be doing. You know, we all do it. It's just being able to acknowledge it, being able to do something about it, so it doesn't become, like we call it, just a habit. It's just something that we can actually catch ourselves doing and say, okay, why is this happening now? You may go through a really great semester where you're like, boom, everything's working out really great, and then something happens and your mood shifts, and all of a sudden you're finding yourself unmotivated and really falling into procrastination more. Okay, thank you for sharing. And thank you so much for sharing those tips. I noticed for a second in the chat that you're all answering some of the tips that Katya asked for. So that's really cool that everybody was able to do that. So yeah, realistically, almost everyone feels a lack of motivation at one point or another, whether it's at a certain time of the day, certain days of the week, semester, when there's other things going on. And how to handle lack of motivation can seem really tough because it's not as simple as telling yourself, try harder, or just being motivated. You know, most of our students that come into coaching have motivation issues. A lot of it is just like, I'm unmotivated. And it's the hardest thing because I wish I had like a magic pill I can just give you and be like, there, boom, it's removed, or a magic wand that I could just, you know, wave and it's done. But really motivation involves, if you notice even by the picture, the little guy there is kind of like going up these steps, right? It's really about action, as small as you can make them, those manageable steps of breaking a project up and doing a little bit of a time will help you kind of stay motivated. And really understanding the different styles of motivation so that you kind of know where is it really coming from. So I'm going to just briefly go through this, but there's, you know, different types of motivation styles: conditional versus centristic, which means when you actually are excited and feel motivated about a reward, like getting a good grade motivates you. Intrinsic basically means it's because you want to. There's something inside of you that just makes you feel really excited to like be on the dean's list or get that grade that you've been studying so hard for. Reactive versus proactive. Reactive is, you know, I'm on probation or I'm really studying hard this semester because I'm about to go on academic warning. So you're just reacting to something that might happen. And then proactive is, I just want to be in good standing. I really love to be in good standing. I don't even want to be anywhere near that 2.0. So that kind of motivates you to keep going. And then there's self and empathetic. And self is just to make yourself proud, and empathetic is to make my family proud or make others proud. And this is a really great one. I always tell students, really go through that visualization of what will it be like to walk across that stage when you're graduating. Really connect with that feeling of how will you feel? Who will be in the audience? Are they going to be shouting your name? What is your hat, the mortarboard going to be decorated like? Where are you going to go celebrate right after you graduate? Really connect with what that's going to look like, and that will help you also stay motivated. So just a final piece of this reflection, try to understand your motivation and your plan. So really quickly, if you can, go ahead and think about these 3 questions. What motivates you to change your procrastination habits? What is motivating you to show up today to this presentation? Think of a time when you were tempted but didn't procrastinate. What helped you stay on track? And what new strategies do you want to use to overcome procrastination? So take a second and reflect and think about these 3 questions. And would anybody like to, you know, briefly share any of the answers to any of these questions? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Let's see, is there somebody that unmuted himself?
Yeah. What motivates me to like change my habits or like when I'm going through it is that I hate doing homework on the weekends, just because I know that during the weekend I'm just, you know, like I can plan whatever I want. I can go out without the stress of like, oh, you have this assignment, or oh, you still have to get this done. So I try to finish everything by Friday, and usually I have my agenda, which is one of my strategies that I use to like overcome my procrastination, you know? So like I use it like with my little check marks, with highlighting the events that I've been to or meetings or whatever. And it makes me feel good. But the thing is, I hate myself because then I start procrastinating. Like after I see the clock, it's like, oh, it's after 3. I'm like, okay, that's it. Like I'm, you know, like I get really lazy, even though like I didn't finish everything.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, definitely. So, you know, being motivated, knowing that you don't want to be stuck doing work on the weekends. That's kind of like what you're saying, right? And knowing that if you're able to get this done, then your weekend all of a sudden is freed up and you don't have to be stressed out over the weekend trying to do some stuff. So because we are kind of running out of time, I'm going to kind of keep going now really quickly. But think about these 3 questions. Hopefully you had a chance to kind of either take a picture of the slide or write them down quickly. So this is part of your reflection piece that you can think about. And then, you know, now what? What are you going to do with all this information? So like I said, really going down, really sitting down with yourself and thinking about all these questions we talked about, really reflecting. And try to do this maybe once per semester if you can. Put an alarm on your phone or a notification reminding you, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this as like my reflection time, where I'm going to actually have an opportunity to sit down and reflect about my procrastination. Why is it creeping up right now all of a sudden? And then you're welcome to reach out to us. If you ever feel that you're struggling, you want to revise your plan, you want to go deeper into this, you actually want to walk through these questions with us, we're happy to help you. These are all of our coaches. And through the link that's on there, you can actually sign up for coaching, or you can also email us at coaching@fiu.edu, which is another great way of just reaching out to us. And we can work with you, like I said, one-on-one. We also offer group coaching sessions. And then finally, I would love if you could all fill out this survey. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat. Hold on a second. And then we're also going to send you all an email with the link. So we really, really would appreciate it if you can send this to us. I mean, go ahead and, I don't know why I'm having a hard time putting this in the chat. Give me a second, everybody. But if you can just, you know, take a screenshot of it and go ahead and visit us on that link and evaluate us, that would be really, really great. And then good luck. I wish everybody an awesome end of semester now that we're getting towards the end. Does anybody have any last minute questions or any last minute comments?
Thank you. This really helped.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, all of you, for participating and for interacting. I'm so glad. Somebody is asking for the link again. Yeah, I thought I put it in there. I'm sorry. Hold on a minute.
Thank you.
Stop
Yes,
sharing
for
and I'll
all
put it
this
in there.
information.
Okay, I'm getting the link up. Hold on a minute. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Excuse
You're
me,
welcome.
I was disconnected because my internet was so bad and I had dialed in, but I didn't really get to see the PowerPoints and slides. Is there a way for me to like see them?
Yes, I can. What we could do is we're going to be sending you. There's a link to the. I put the link in the chat to the survey. We'll be receiving an email with the evaluation, also with the link to the evaluation. And then Ivy, is that something we can include also? Maybe the PowerPoint slides.
Yeah, sure. When you have time to send it to me, we'll be sending them out either by today or tomorrow, the latest.
Okay, so we'll definitely be able to do that.
If you want to send us your email, whoever's speaking, with the phone number, because it probably won't show up on our list, your email address, just your phone number. So if you want to privately send it to Elsa, your email address, we'll make sure we have you counted for that, included.
Yes, please. So anybody who wants to receive the email and is on the phone number, if you can just go ahead and put it in the chat, your email address, and then we can definitely include you on our list.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple students on the phone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Elsa.
No, thank you so much. And like I said, I hope everybody really, you know, found some value in the presentation. And thank you so much for participating, for being so open to sharing. Thank you. Okay, I got a couple emails. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was speaking and I'm not able to see anything. I'm not even able to see the chat. Is it okay if I could say my email?
Yes. Let me just write it down. Go ahead.
Okay. It's S-C.
S like in Sam? S like in Sam?
Yes, yes. S as in Sam, C as in camp, A as in ant, M like in mouse, P as in Pat, 138 at fiu.edu.
Okay, perfect. This is Shirley, right?
Yes.
Hi, Shirley. Okay, I'll go ahead and we'll definitely include you on the list and we'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye. And I think we have another phone number. Is hello?
It ends in 894. Is that
Yes.
Shirley or a different person?
I don't know. Is there somebody else on here with the phone number that called in?
It could
maybe
be a
not.
double one
Yeah.
sometimes when they log in and do audio. Oh.
Okay, I went ahead and removed. Oh, I feel like I just ran a marathon, i.e.
You got everything in. I'm impressed.
That's so good.
I know, I feel like at the end I
Yes.
had to rush a little bit because I noticed the time because they were interacting a little bit more than what I thought for such a large group.
Yeah, I thought it was great also. I loved it.
Sorry for the technical difficulties getting the survey link. I don't
You're
think a lot of them got
fine.
it. So I'll make sure, just to summarize what you wanted me to do. So we're going to send you the attendance sheet, right?
Mhm.
And then I'm going to ask Christina then about sending this presentation, the slides, and the link again so that we can send that out to all the students,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, if anything, if the link takes a little longer, what you could do is I could send out the slides to them, and what we do is we can eventually post it to our life skills YouTube, and I can send them that link and tell them to check back like within the week, and it'll be uploaded there.
Okay. Okay.
If it
cool.
takes a
And then,
while, yeah.
okay. And then we're going to just edit it so that we cut off all this part and just give you the actual presentation.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
I hope
you.
that
We'll
they
be
like
in
that. There was a
touch.
lot of students. I was really happy how many students showed up, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful. I love it.
It was
But
a
yeah,
great turnout.
thanks. We'll probably be in touch for something else in next
Okay,
semester.
sounds good. Bye. Have a good
Right.
afternoon, both of you.
Everyone, thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.